And I don't want to hear people crying about Jake, oh, it's all about this unity nonsense. I don't actually unite with people who are on this position where they're not even making their aqidah clear. Yeah, we can agree that the Zionists are scumbag losers and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deal with them and destroy them, and may He elevate the ranks of the Palestinians. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. We can agree on that. But when you're trying to talk about Shia Sunni unity and you don't even know what your aqidah is and can't state it clearly, then don't waste my time with debate offers, Dan. And today's episode is a rather unfortunate one, but an important one nonetheless. Today I'll be speaking about the ongoing dispute between Daniel حقيقتجو and myself that's been taking place mainly on Twitter or X. Now, some people are confused about the nature of this dispute, and I think Daniel is himself, although he's shown himself to be dishonest numerous times, so it's partial ignorance and also partial dishonesty. But I'm going to make very, very, very clear, hopefully, for Daniel and all of the other viewers, what my main issues with Daniel are at this point. First, we began discussing things related to the Sunni-Shia alliance, and he's gone, due to criticism, I think partially, he's gone much further in his rhetoric, and he's been using a lot of Iranian and Shia talking points and rhetoric and so on and so forth. But honestly, that really is not my main issue at this point. Because of his recent streams and things that he said, and also some past experiences, which I'm going to show in just a minute, the main issue with Daniel at this point is we don't know what his aqidah is. Is he claiming actually to be a Sunni? Well, at least verbally, he's claiming to be a Sunni. But what does that really mean? Because Daniel plays so fast and loose with the term Sunni, as we'll see in just a couple moments, that we really don't even know what he means by that. What is his aqidah? Is he an Ethari or Salafi in aqidah? Does he follow the aqidah of the Mutakallimun, like the Mu'tazila or the Maturidis or the Ash'aris, or what? We really have no idea at this point because of the fact that he is so mysterious, and it seems to be the case that he's hiding his aqidah. And we wonder why that is. I myself think, for one very clear reason at least, and that's because Daniel does not want to alienate or separate himself from his audience. He has many followers that are of all different stripes and all different views, and that's because many times he's preaching this complete unification view in which he wants all of the different so-called Muslims to be uniting under one banner. But when that happens, it discredits him in a way. Why? Because we don't clearly know what his positions are on these key issues. But as we'll see in just a second, he doesn't actually think that these are key issues. He completely downplays aqidah and thinks that it really doesn't stand or really is not a very important issue today that should be discussed. He doesn't think that he needs to make his aqidah clear. Before we even get to some clips from his live streams, I want to show you guys something that happened just about a month or so ago. Many people will know that I was actually supposed to be one of the two Muslim representatives that were supposed to show up on the so-called Fresh and Fit debate with Jay Dyer and Scam Shamoon. A lot of people wondered, why did Jake back out at the last moment? And I was being accused by Christians and even Muslims as being a coward, of somebody who was backing out of the debate because I was scared to debate Scam Shamoon and Jay Dyer, which is obviously not the case because I've already debated Jay Dyer one-on-one, and I've already accepted Scam Shamoon's challenge one-on-one several times where he's asked me to debate him on 4 separate topics. I said, look, Scam, I'll accept to debate you on all 4 topics of your choosing so long as you debate me on one topic of my choosing, which is the Trinity, and he's refused to do that. So it had nothing to do with me being scared whatsoever. It also had nothing to do with my illness and nothing related to that whatsoever. It had nothing to do with any family issues. It also didn't have to do with the lie that Scam Shamoon claimed, which is that I had internet problems in Morocco. It had nothing to do with any of those things whatsoever. So why did I back out of the debate? Well, it's because of the same issues that are coming to the surface now with Daniel related to aqidah. And I'm going to demonstrate that in just a second when I play a couple clips from that trash and filth debate.
Yeah, Daniel, I want to hear from your own mouth. The Yad of Allah, is it a metaphor for his power?
It can be a metaphor for his power. It can be interpreted in many different ways. It does not contradict. It does not contradict Tawheed. It does not contradict monotheism.
Yes, it does.
You can have an Ash'ari position and interpret it as a metaphor, or you can have a Salafi Athari position and interpret it differently. That explain to me how it contradicts.
Okay, can you
explain to me? I answered your question. How does God having a hand, however it's interpreted, contradict monotheism? Can you explain this? How does having a hand? How does a hand contradict monotheism? Explain it. No, you asked me a question. It's open dialogue. You asked me a question, and I answered you. Now answer my question. I answered your question. Now you answer my question.
What's your position?
Okay. What do
Yeah,
you
I've studied
Salafi?
Salafi, Athari Islam, I've studied Ash'ari Islam.
You've studied it, but you won't say your position.
What are you?
I have studied all of it. It's irrelevant to this debate. Stick to the topic. Stick to the topic. Stick to the topic. Stick to the topic. What explain to me? So, moderator, he doesn't let me answer the question. He doesn't let me answer the question.
No, because you're doing a dodgeball.
Let me answer. This is not, you don't have to like my answer. This is not interrogation. This is not cross-examination. You already asked me one question. Let me ask you a question now.
Okay.
Jay.
Okay, so as we can see, Sam, although I hate him, he's a complete scumbag individual. The honest reality, he and Jay Dyer were actually correct. They're asking Daniel his position on Yad Allah, the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we know, there are different so-called positions amongst the different schools of theology. We have the position of the mutakallimun and the philosophers, and then we have Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Now, they're asking him, and because they are both really have no idea what they're talking about for the most part, but they have enough sense to know that there's a difference between the Ash'ari and Maturidi position on Yad Allah on the one hand, and the traditional Sunni position or the Athari Salafi position on the other hand. And they're pressing him. They're asking him, what is your position on Yad Allah? And Daniel says, oh, well, it can be interpreted as power, as quwwah, and which has been refuted by our scholars for quite a long time. Or it can be interpreted this way or that way. He doesn't want to give a clear answer. He doesn't want to say what his position actually is. And then they ask him more directly. And what does he say? He says, well, I've studied Salafi or Athari Islam, and I've studied Ash'ari Islam. But they're asking, what is your position, Mr. Haqiqatjou? What is your position? That's what they ask him. And what does he say? It's irrelevant to this debate. No, it's not irrelevant to this debate. And then when you ask your next question, it exposes your hypocrisy of how it is directly related to this debate. Why? Because that section of the debate, there were 3 sections in this debate. That section of the debate was on Trinity versus Tawheed. What is your position on Tawheed? Of course it is directly related to this debate, whether you're an Ash'ari or a Maturidi or an Athari or Salafi, because there are true and significant substantive differences between those 3 schools. So they're asking you, just as I would ask a Christian when I'm speaking to them, if I'm debating them on the Trinity, what is their view? Do they hold the position of Thomas Aquinas and the Catholics? Do they hold a view of something like Jay Dyer represents and the Eastern Orthodox view? Or do they hold William Lane Craig's view and denying the Nicene Creed and a more Protestant view of not really holding to the ecumenical councils? All of these different views are relevant. I'm not going to start refuting Aquinas' view when I'm talking to William Lane Craig, and vice versa. I'm not going to start refuting William Lane Craig's view when I'm talking to Jay Dyer. So this is intellectual honesty, where you are expected to represent your specific view, and you say it's not relevant to the debate. Well, then what is relevant to the debate at that point? And you want to say, oh, well, we're just generally representing a monotheistic view. That's what the Trinitarians claim. And I'm not agreeing with them that they are monotheistic, nor am I claiming that the Ash'aris and Maturidis are polytheists in the sense of actually saying that they believe in multiple gods. But nevertheless, to make the claim that it's irrelevant what your position is on the question is just completely dishonest. Of course it's relevant. That's why when I debated Jay Dyer on Trinity versus Tawheed, I didn't answer the question that way. I explained to the best of my ability, whether people agree with it or not, what my position is. And I represented the Athari or Salafi Aqidah. So it's just completely dishonest to say that it's not relevant at all to this debate. Now let's continue watching, and we'll see how when Daniel asks his first question, it will demonstrate his hypocrisy.
Is Catholicism modalism? Is it a heresy? Yes or no?
It can lead to that if they're consistent with it, yes.
No. Is it or not?
Well, it's a false either or, because not everybody who's wrong is necessarily a heretic. They're not necessarily formal heretics. You can have a material heresy.
So the Catholic position, is it a heresy or not?
It depends on the person whether they're hardened in that heresy.
No, it doesn't depend on a person. There's
you're asking me my position.
Yeah,
I'm telling you my position. You don't tell me what my position is.
Let me help you.
The
You don't
Catholic
like your
doctrine is
answers, so
multiple.
don't filibuster because he wants to use up the time. Now,
What do you think about that? Jay just called your church.
So now Daniel is asking, which is a strategy that I actually told him to employ, which he partly listened to, but he didn't even do that very well, which is, Jay, is the position of the Catholics and Thomas Aquinas on the doctrine of the Trinity, is it modalism? Which I also told him to employ because I got Jay Dyer explicitly explicitly to admit in my debate that yes, it is. And what would that demonstrate? That Sam Shamoun, or Scam Shamoun on the one hand, who claims to be a Catholic and would have a position similar to Thomas Aquinas on the doctrine of the Trinity, would be considered to have a modalist position, which is a heretical position, a deviant position. It would be considered bid'ah, according to Jay Dyer. And on the other hand, likewise, most Thomists would consider Jay Dyer's position to be polytheism, to him believing in multiple gods, which I can also demonstrate. So what is Daniel trying to do? He's not just saying, oh, what is your belief, and talking very vaguely about the Trinity or very generally about the Trinity. He's asking them to specify their school of theology and then trying to pit them against each other. But that's exactly what Scam Shamoun and Jay Dyer were trying to do, because they know that Ijaz is a Maturidi, and they know that Daniel, at least in the past, at least from what they think, has claimed to be an Ethidi or Salafi. So how could they be agreeing to debate together when they hold different positions on Tawheed or Aqidah? So Daniel was doing the exact same thing in the reverse. How can Jay Dyer team up with Scam Shamoun when he considers Scam Shamoun's position, the Catholic position on the Trinity, Aquinas' position, to entail modalism, which is considered heretical, according to Jay Dyer? Now, Jay Dyer was also dishonest in his response, just as Daniel was. Why? Because Daniel was asking him whether or not the position was heretical. But Jay Dyer kept making a distinction between a material heresy and a formal heresy. One is basically that if you hold it, then you're a heretic, meaning that you're actually a heretic. And we make a similar distinction in someone who holds a heretical position, meaning they have a belief that's bid'ah, but that doesn't necessitate automatically that that person themselves is a deviant. Well, Jay Dyer is making the same distinction, but Daniel wasn't asking about it. He was asking about the belief itself. And Jay Dyer kept saying, oh, well, I'm making a distinction between a material heresy and a formal heresy. But that wasn't the question about the belief itself. Is it bid'ah? Is it deviant? Is it heretical? And Jay Dyer would have to admit yes, but he didn't want to, because he didn't really want to clearly throw Scam Shamoun under the bus. If I were there, I would have I can debate them 1-on-2, me versus the two of them at the same time, without Daniel, without Ijaz, or anyone else, and I would have been able to take both of their heads and smack them together, and I would have had them fighting against each other, and I would have pressed them to the point of clearly demonstrating, and I would have pressed this over and over and over again and beat them over the head with a hammer, not David Wood style, right? Do it with a hammer. Metaphorically speaking, until I got them to turn against each other, or to clearly demonstrate how much of a hypocrite Jay Dyer is, because he does these live streams all the time calling to debate Catholics, but yet he wants to team up with the Catholic on a position that he holds, which he considers heretical, which is on a fundamental belief of the Trinity. So they're both actually doing the same thing, because at least on paper, Daniel was supposed to be a Salafi or Ethidi, and he should consider Ijaz's certain positions that he holds as a Maturidi be deviant, and vice versa. Ijaz should be holding the same thing. And it's the same exact thing for Scam Shamoun and Jay Dyer. So on both sides, it was ridiculous for them to be teaming up with each other to debate this specific topic, because they don't agree, or at least they weren't supposed to be agreeing on those positions. Now, anyway, let's go back to the clip.
I'm a heretic. I deserve help. Jake, pray for me and ask the intercession of the saints. Now let's go back to the Quran.
So it's ironic that you were trying to pit me against
I asked the question. I'm being scared.
You don't believe in the same God. You and Jay don't believe in the same God. That's the point they're trying to make.
Well, I mean,
Moderator, you're gonna have to do a better job.
But the things that
You see that? So Daniel pointed out, it's interesting that you're trying to pit me, Daniel, against Ijaz, but yet you and Jay don't agree on your Aqidah. You don't agree on your creed. You don't agree on your doctrine of the Trinity, which is true. But in that case, you're both hypocrites. That's really all it is. And this video really is not meant to be attacking Ijaz. I just want to say that from the outset. But the honest reality is they didn't have any business teaming up, because they don't agree on the same creed, or at least they weren't supposed to. At this point, we don't know. Daniel may be a Maturidi. We're yet to actually know what his Aqidah actually is. But it was clear he did not want to actually defend any distinctive position, whether it be Ethidi or Ash'ari or Maturidi or Mu'tazili or anything. He didn't want to defend any distinctive Aqidah position at all. And he told me this explicitly. So I originally was supposed to be teaming up with Daniel. We were preparing for this section of the debate, and we started discussing the strategy, and he told me directly that he did not want to defend any distinctively Ethidi position in this part of the debate. He did not want to. And I told him, dude, how could I do that? I'm very openly Ethidi. I criticize the other so-called creeds or Aqidas. I just had a debate with Jay himself myself, one of the other opponents in the debate, on Aqidah, on Trinity versus Tawheed, the same subject, and I defended the Athari Salafi position. So how could I go into that debate and play the position of Daniel? And Daniel actually thought that, oh, it would detract from being able to attack the Trinity, and it would take too long, and we wouldn't get back to attacking their actual view. But the honest reality is, and this is what I said, and Daniel will know this, and there were other people involved with the discussion prior to this who know and were privy to what I said the exact opposite is going to happen. If you do this, it's going to be embarrassing. You're going to look terrible. They're going to beat you over the head with this and keep making the exact same point, pressing you on this, and it's going to look really bad if you're trying to obfuscate and avoid the issue and not mention what your position is and briefly attempt to defend it and then go back to the Trinity. And that's exactly what happened. Exactly what I said was going to happen. And they buried you. They buried you completely on this topic. When that is supposed to be the Islamic position, is supposed to be far superior to the Trinity. There were three topics: Trinity versus Tawheed. Then there was one on preservation of scripture was the second one. And then the third one was basically on morality and so on and so forth in the Bible compared to the Quran. Now, on the second one, a preservation of scripture, and I told both of them this privately after the debate, I thought it was a wash. I thought it was pretty much even in terms of arguments going back and forth and rhetorically. On the third discussion on morality in the Bible versus the Quran, and even with Daniel and I having this problem, I have no problem saying this, I thought Daniel completely slayed them faithfully on a silver platter in the third discussion. But on the first topic, Trinity versus Tawheed, even though Sam made ridiculous arguments, which I responded to, and there's a link in the description of this video about his nonsense about the Quran speaking and walking around and being 114 gods besides Allah, astaghfirullah. Even though he brought up ridiculous points, still, they looked bad because they weren't able to respond to that, first of all, satisfactorily. And second of all, they weren't defending any distinctively specific Aqidah positions, and they were just hiding. They weren't answering the questions. They were obfuscating. So it was very clear. And I told them this is exactly what's going to happen. And they got slayed faithfully on Trinity versus Tawheed. And I will openly state that. And I don't care if Scam Shamoon or any of these clowns clip it because it's the reality. And I'm stating it as a fact. Now, this is why I did not appear on the Fresh and Fit debate. I said, listen, if you don't want to defend Athari Salafi Aqidah openly and answer these questions honestly, then I'm out of the debate. You can find another partner. Okay. But I warned him if he does this strategy, it's not going to work. So I left and he picked another partner. So all those people, Scam Shamoon, that are claiming that I was running or that blah, 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 blah. Now is it clear that I wasn't running? I know you don't like me, but at least you should admit that you were misrepresenting what actually happened, that I wasn't running, that actually the problem was that Daniel wouldn't openly defend his Aqidah. So I said, the hell with it. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm not going to be some fool on this trash and filth channel. I'll let somebody else step in and let them decide. But even if I was not going to be there, I still recommended Daniel and whoever your partner is at least defend a specific school of Aqidah, whatever it is, whatever you claim to hold. That's what you should do. Not play this game where you try to not answer and say that you're not defending any position. That's ridiculous. But anyway, let's continue now. I hope that's clear to my audience and Daniel's audience and even the Christian audience why I didn't appear on Trash and Filth. So let's go back to the video clip and listen to Mr. Haqiqatjou a little bit further to show why exactly that happened. And it's because he's not open about his Aqidah at the very least. Let's take a listen.
But the things that some of these sectarians are arguing about, like when they're getting in endless debates on Aqidah, Ash'ari, Salafi, Maturidi, Athari, whatever, when they're arguing on those things, those are not, I'm not saying that they're not important to be discussed, but they're creating a war on those issues. And they're creating animosity and division amongst Muslims on the basis of these things, which, by the way, have been debated for 1,000 years. Sense of the Athari Aqidah.
And he's referring to me because he goes on to say that Jake is doing this all the time. You know, the same sort of critique, which I already made a video about this, why I speak about Aqidah. It is important, but Daniel, because he doesn't believe that Aqidah is actually important, right? Although he'll give lip service to it, he won't even openly defend his Aqidah in a debate with Christians. He says it's irrelevant to the debate. No, it's not irrelevant to debate. Not at all. And it is important because it is going to have an effect on Muslims' afterlife. Because we believe that the other schools of Aqidah are either kufri in general, or at the very least, they're deviants. Like the Ash'aris and Maturidis, we believe as a creed, their creeds are deviant creeds. I'm openly stating this. And people can disagree, and that's fine. But this is the position of our ulama. Maybe not Daniel's, but this is the position of our ulama, classically speaking. I'm not talking about some guy in the 21st century or whoever else. I'm talking about Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. I'm talking about the other great ulama of the past. And I'm going to do a separate video on this, and people are going going to say, oh, but Jake, you're harsh, you're causing division, just like Daniel said. But guess what? You guys know, and rightly so, because they think that we're wrong. So that's their position. That the Maturidis and the Ash'aris, classically speaking, have also hold the people who hold the Aqidah like I have, that our Aqidah is also deviant. Do you know that they held that view? And rightly so, in the sense that we disagree. There's no games that we're playing. So at least I appreciate the fact that they'll openly and honestly say, they're scholars of the past, say, yeah, Jake, you're holding deviant beliefs. Okay, let's debate them and discuss them. But Daniel's trying to do this kumbaya type of thing of unity as if, oh, or it's just big bad Jake and the big bad Salafis that accuse the Ash'aris and Maturidis of being deviants or on deviant beliefs. They do the exact same thing in the reverse. But yet you guys never go to them on their comment section. You guys never make videos addressing them. You never really do that, right? It's always the big bad Salafis that are attacked. So this is the honest reality. And that's what we see, that unfortunately, because Daniel is someone who consistently has downplayed Aqidah and hasn't spoken about it, and probably half rightly so because he hasn't studied it. He has no idea about these issues. And I know that from speaking to him privately. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. That's the honest reality. And that's why you're trying to get me to discuss whether or not it's permissible in certain circumstances to unite with the Shia and which particular group of Shia. And all of those are interesting and important questions that I have commented on, but they're nothing compared to clearly stating what your actual Aqidah is. And as we'll see, whether or not you're able to make takfir of certain people and certain groups based on the shirk and the kufr that they're spewing. That's way more important. And then we'll see here just how ignorant he is, where he makes a claim about Atheris and makes a claim that there's a big difference between the Aqidah of Imam Ahmed and Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on both of them. So let's take a listen to that.
Sense of the Athari Aqidah, whether you want to say that's the Aqidah of Ibn Taymiyyah or the Aqidah of Imam Ahmed or combination thereof, even though there are significant differences, what overt, deliberate, in-your-face changing of the deen, like in a way that no...
Did you catch that? He says, in the sense of Athari Aqidah, whether you want to say the Aqidah of Imam Ahmed or the Aqidah of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah.
Even though there are significant differences, what...
And then he says, there are significant differences. Okay, what are those significant differences, Daniel? Are you one of those so-called neo-Hanbalis, neo-Atharis that have bought into the idea that Imam Ahmed and the other Hanabila, you know, the majority of them had a totally different and significantly different Aqidah from Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah? Is that your position? And if so, I'm happy to do a video refuting that as well in the future. But if that's your position, why don't you just openly state it so that we know? And if it is, do you hold the Aqidah positions of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah? Or do you hold it supposedly of those other Hanabila that had these different positions, right? Do you hold the neo-Hanbali position? Which one is it? That's what we want to know. But again, you're hiding your Aqidah. I don't know. Maybe the days of your Shi'i past haven't worn off yet. Maybe that's the case. I don't know what it actually is.
Deliberate, in-your-face changing of the deen, like in a way that no one accepts. There's no valid ikhtilaf on it. There's no valid ikhtilaf on it. Those are the things that I call out imams for, as you can see on the channel. You know, destroying gender roles in Islam, right? These are the things that I'm criticizing these imams for. Liberalizing Islam. That's very different than what Jake is doing to other Muslims. Not only me, but others that he's attacking. What I am arguing on the basis of are things that there is no ikhtilaf on, number one. There's no legitimate disagreement, difference of opinion on. Like, should Muslims go and support LGBT? Like, there's no legitimate difference of opinion on this. It's just people who are liberals and reformists have put this out while wearing a kufi or wearing a turban and saying, yeah, this is Islam now. Liberalism is not about a difference of opinion. Liberalism, like, I want you guys to understand this because, so
there you have where he is basically saying what Daniel criticizes other imams or, you know, so-called shuyukh or these compassionate imams for is liberalism and blah, blah, blah. And rightly so, a lot of his previous criticisms, I would actually agree with, right? So this video is not going to be me being dishonest about Daniel and just, you know, denying that I agree with him on anything. I agree with a lot of those critiques. However, what he's trying to say is the nature of his critique is entirely different because there is no valid ikhtilaf on those issues. Those positions are clear. But what Jake is doing, arguing about issues of aqidah, like what is yad Allah, or does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala act in succession, and sifat al-ikhtiyariyah, and all of these kind of things, and kalam Allah, and all of these issues. No. There are valid differences of opinion. There is valid ikhtilaf on these issues. That's basically what he's saying. So maybe it's the case that Daniel claims to be an ethicist Athari or Salafi, but he thinks there is valid ikhtilaf on these things, meaning the positions that the Ash'aris and the Maturidis hold that we disagree with them over, those aren't deviant beliefs, those aren't kufri beliefs that they hold, none of them. It's just all of the difference merely either verbal or just genuine disputes that both people, they won't be held accountable in the sense of it's not a sin, it's just a valid ikhtilaf, right? It's not a big deal in that sense. So that's what Daniel's saying. Oh, his issues that he attacks other Muslims over, there is no valid ikhtilaf, but the issues that Jake attacks other Muslims over, even though they're the ones also attacking me, there is valid ikhtilaf over those. Well, that is not the Salafi or Athari position. We do not say that there's valid ikhtilaf over those issues. The issues that I'm actually commenting on, there's not valid ikhtilaf on. And that's the reason why I'm stressing upon them. So again, this either shows Daniel's ignorance or dishonesty or what, I don't know. Or maybe again, he's just holding this position where he wants to try to claim he's an Athari or Salafi in some sense, which I highly doubt even at this point, while at the same time, oh, in sake of unity, you know, there's all this valid ikhtilaf. It's not really a big substantial difference in that sense. It's just a valid ikhtilaf, like the difference between the Malikis and the Hanafis and the Shafi'is and the Hanbalis. It's just like that. So like the 4 schools of fiqh are like the so-called 3 schools of aqidah. They're just valid ikhtilafi differences, and that's it. No big deal. That's not what we believe at all when it comes to aqidah. Fiqh is an entirely different story.
Oh no, they've trapped me with this question. What am I going to say? Oh no, what am I going to say to this question? Oh, there's no way to answer this that's safe for me. All I want to do is say things that are safe that will make people love me. What am I going to do with this question, this trap, this brilliant trap? Oh, yeah. So, Khomeini and some of the...
Now, before we go to the next part, right, and if Daniel responds to this and tries to say that I did very poorly in any of my debates, I want to show you something from Daniel. This was posted on, as you can see, February 18th, just earlier this year, on Daniel's Telegram account, Daniel Haqiqatjou Official. What is he posting here? So Daniel here is posting and promoting what? An Aqidah class on Allah's names and attributes taught by an Ash'ari, as far as I understand it. Either Ash'ari or Maturidi, but I'm pretty sure he's an Ash'ari. So this is what he's promoting on his Telegram account just 6 months ago. That's what he's promoting. And the crazy thing is, right, as I said, if anybody thinks that, oh, Daniel now is going to come out and attack me and say that I got destroyed in such and such debate or what have you, I'll show you that it's ironic that he's promoting that in Ash'ari Aqidah class, which I wouldn't do. And if I've done that in the past, then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me. But I would not do that today. So at all. Obviously have had wrong opinions in the past. I was never, to be clear, I was never explicitly an Ash'ari at all. In fact, when I met Dr. Shadi al-Masri the first time, and I don't know if he remembers this, actually it wasn't the first time I met him, but the first time I went to his house, in his very basement, I told him, listen, I will never be an Ash'ari. And he said, why? And then I gave him some examples, which I don't really have to go into. So I was never an Ash'ari, although I had a misunderstanding about some other beliefs. Now, there's no issue in that, in growing in knowledge and understanding, but the issue is that Daniel just 6 months ago was promoting this Ash'ari Aqidah course. So we don't know. I mean, why is he promoting it? Is he an Ash'ari? Does he believe, oh, even if he's not Ash'ari, that this is a valid opinion so people can learn it and so on and so forth? I would not promote those courses. I would not post that on my Telegram channel, which I don't even have. I wouldn't post that on Telegram or YouTube or anywhere else. I wouldn't do that. Telling people to, oh, go sign up for this paid Aqidah course. Why? So they can learn deviance? So they can go and learn bid'ah? No, I would never do that. And it's interesting because on that very same day, Daniel posted about my debate with Jay Dyer, one of the people who appeared in the Trash and Filth debate. What does he say? And there are 2 posts on it, but I'm just going to show you one part where he says, anyway, Jake did a great job, mashallah. He remains undefeated against Christian apologists. I would be surprised if any other prominent apologist agrees to debate him moving forward, especially after this debacle where he bullied Dyer for 3+ hours. So now he can't come out and be dishonest and say, oh yeah, Jake got destroyed by Dyer or Jake got destroyed by these other Christians. He's the same guy that said I was the final boss. But then lately he's been criticizing me to stay out of geopolitics, Jake. You're just known or only good for showing contradictions in the Bible, which that isn't even my shtick. Like, what are you talking about, dude? How dishonest is that? I actually go in depth into Christian theology, into the different sects, and refute all of them. I'm not the one actually who even really goes into the Bible much and goes into this weak Bible contradiction type of stuff. Very rarely. So that's not my expertise beliefs at all. And you know that, because when you invited me to your own program, remember when you did that? Remember when you did that, Dan? What did I talk about? I didn't talk about Bible contradictions. I talked about the logical problem of the Trinity and the theological problems with the Trinity, not about Bible contradictions and whether or not the Trinity is taught in the Bible or these type of things. I'm actually critical sometimes of those types of methods. So that's not my deal at all. And Daniel knows that. So I can only chalk that up to dishonesty. But anyway, as we saw, he's promoting earlier this year Ash'ari Aqidah paid courses. And on the same day, he's admitting that I destroyed Jay Dyer and said that I've been undefeated in my debates against Christian apologists. I wish I could say the same for Daniel, but unfortunately I can't because I have to be honest. Let's go back to the clip and show some more of Daniel's Aqidah issues.
So, oh, this is a trap. Oh no, they've trapped me with this question. What am I going to say? Oh no, what am I going to say to this question? Oh, there's no way to answer this that's safe for me. All I want to do is say things that are safe that will make people love me. What am I going to do with this question, this trap, this brilliant trap? Oh, yeah. So, Khomeini and some of the Shia Imams are zindiq. They are kafir. If they say things like the Quran has been modified, like the only complete Quran was sent to Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after the Prophet passed away, or they accuse Aisha radiallahu anha of committing something inappropriate despite the Quran clearing her name. Those individuals who say that, they've left Islam. They're not Muslim. So is Khomeini, was he a Muslim, or did he commit or have these nullifying beliefs? We can look at that in depth, but if that's shown, like some people are citing Sheikh Al-Albani. Sheikh Al-Albani making takfir of Khomeini. And is he making takfir of Khomeini because of what exactly? Is it because of the concept of wilayat al-faqih? Like if you don't accept that the Sharia should be applied regardless of the ruler, or what belief exactly is taking him out of Islam, we can look at that more in depth. But, that's an opinion that Sheikh Al-Albani had about Khomeini in particular. But Khomeini, or Sheikh Al-Albani, didn't do takfir of all Shia ulama, Shia scholars. He didn't. Now, some people, or his allegation that I do not hold that a person who...
So there you go. What did Daniel say? Does he make takfir on Ayatollah Khomeini? Does he make takfir of him? Does he say that he's a kafir, or was he a Muslim? He won't answer the question. But yet we'll see that Dishonest Dan on Twitter says that he answered all my questions, including answering whether or not that Ayatollah Khomeini, the great supreme leader of Iran who started the Iranian Revolution, or the Iranian leadership is now following in the footsteps of. Iran wouldn't be what it is today without him. That guy, Daniel, did not make takfir of him and did not actually say one way or another. In fact, he said that Sheikh Al-Albani made takfir of him, and then says, but we have to look into that because Daniel doesn't know what he made takfir over him about, and he doesn't know one way or another. When I clearly and explicitly, time and time again, several times, about 5 or more times, showed some of the kufri beliefs, some of the shirkiyat of Khomeini. I showed that. And Daniel did not respond. And I'll show that in just a second. So here, let's go to Twitter now to show you guys what I'm talking about. Here, I made a post which says, and this is a recent one, I've asked the same question many times. Was Khomeini a Muslim or a kafir? Want to see the difference between Haqiqatjou and myself, right? The difference between us? If you can show me an example of this guy Zumas clearly expressing and promoting kufri views as Khomeini does below, then I will not only rescind my debate approval of him, which he actually was accused of being Ba'athist, which he has come out and said that he actually isn't explicitly. Now, whether or not he is, that's what he said, so I'm taking his word on it. That's what he claims. But if I found out that he was expressing kufri and shirki beliefs, I have no problem coming out and disavowing of him. No problem. And I'll say I made a mistake. No problem whatsoever. I said I will takfir him publicly here on the spot if he does. Why? Because I can accept being wrong and correcting myself, inshallah. Inshallah. However, it doesn't seem that you are able to do so. Again, I'd genuinely be happy to be proven wrong on this. So then I ask, was Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader of the Iranian Revolution and founder of the so-called Islamic Republic of Iran, what, a Muslim or a kafir? Do you Haqiqatjou make takfir of Khomeini for his affirmation of this idea that the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, and the Imam can control the universe, right? Which we'll go on to see just in a second. Daniel never clearly made takfir over Khomeini over this issue. And I've already showed video and written evidence that this was his position. So what is he waiting for? Again, he doesn't want to clearly state his positions or make clear positions related to Aqidah because I think he's afraid of losing a lot of his fan base. But let's play this and we'll see here.
So is Khomeini, was he a Muslim
or did he commit like one of or have these nullifying beliefs? We can look at that in depth.
So he's asking the question. He's asking the same question I asked. Is Khomeini a kafir? Well, we can look at that in depth, and then he never answers it. So all the people who are claiming that he already takfired Khomeini, you're a bunch of fools. You've been duped by Dan. Sorry.
Is that belief kufr? Yes, that's a kufr. And whoever believes that a created being can control the creation independently of Allah, that is complete kufr, and that makes you a kafir. A created being controlling the universe, that makes you a...
So did you guys catch that? Did you see what Daniel said there? He did an old sort of Sufi trick. Did you notice? Did you catch that? When he was talking about the people who are created like prophets or imams controlling the universe, he says, anyone who says this, right? And then he adds a word. What does he add? Independently controlling the creation. This is an old trick of the deviant and kufri beliefs of the extreme Sufis. They say, oh, no. All of these different issues about istighatha or requesting from other than Allah or saying that they create something or that they're controlling all of these different things in the universe and so on and so forth. As long as it's not independent, right? They're getting the power from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that's okay, right? There's no problem, or at the very least, it's not kufr and shirk. This is the old trick that they pull, and Daniel is now pulling that out, but many people wouldn't notice that, which is called istiqlal. This is what Daniel is doing there, which basically means independence or self-sufficiency. As long as the person is not attributing complete independence or self-sufficiency to the created individual, whether it's a prophet or imam or whatever, creating or answering dua or any of these things, then it's okay. It's no problem. It's the get out of jail free card, or sometimes they say bi'idhnillah. As we saw, Kamal al-Haydari said the same thing, and he was actually mocking the Shia who do that. Oh yeah, the imams can do all of these things, bi'idhnillah, as long as it's with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's not complete independence, it's okay, no problem. Meshi mushkil. This is not the position of Ahl Sunnah. This is not our position. So again, this shows Daniel seems like he's making a harsh statement to actually defend the correct position, but then he slips in the word independence. As long as it's not on the condition of istiqlal, there's no problem, right? There's no problem as long as it's not complete independence and self-sufficiency. Mashi mushkil, no problem. Now we'll see Daniel, where he didn't make takfir clearly of Khomeini. He clearly and explicitly did not make takfir because he said, oh, Sheikh al-Albani did, but we have to see why he said that. So we can look into it, but he did not make takfir of Khomeini. But then we'll see here from a modern scholar, Muhammad Rizvi, who's one of the big scholars in the English-speaking world today for the 12er Shia, and he represents pretty much a mainstream normative position, takes the position of Khomeini, who holds the belief that the Prophet ﷺ and the Imams have the ability to control the atoms in the universe. So listen to what he says.
To you, two prominent scholars of this century from the Shia world. One is the late Ayatollah Imam Khomeini. When he talks about this concept of the vilayat of the universal type, and this is a quotation I have in my book, let me just read this here. When he talks about it, that it is a vicegerency pertaining to the whole of creation, by virtue of which all the atoms in the universe humble themselves before the holder of authority. Look at his expression. He says all the atoms in the universe are there, humble, waiting for his command. It is one of the essential beliefs of our Shia school that no one can attain the spiritual status of the Imam, not even the closest of the angels or other prophets before Prophet Muhammad. In fact, according to the traditions that have been handed down to us, this is Imam Khomeini talking, the most noble messenger and the Imams existed before the creation of the world in the form of lights situated beneath the arsh and the divine throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were superior to other men, even in the sperm from which they grew and in their physical composition. And he says, this is indicated by what Jibreel said in the story of Mi'raj, that a point came where even Jibreel could not go further. And he left Rasulullah to go ahead alone. And that is where he says, and he quotes the hadith, that Jibreel told Rasulullah, were I to draw closer by as much as the breadth of a finger, surely I would burn. So this is one prominent scholar of the Shia world of this century, saying that all the atoms of the universe humble themselves, before the holder of the vilayat and the authority.
So, what is this scholar saying? He's representing Khomeini's words, which I already showed and read in the previous video on Dishonest Dan, that Khomeini himself believes that the imams control every atom in the universe. But oh, as long as it's not istiqlal, as long as it's not complete independence, there's no kufr. No problem. Are you taking that position, Dan? Or are you going to say that it is still kufr and shirk and that you will takfir Khomeini over this? Because it's clearly in his writing, which was just read out, that he held that position. So we're waiting, and stop telling people that you've already answered my question. So let's take a look here where Dishonest Dan lies and says that he's already answered my questions. What does he say? So somebody says to him, Daniel, why can't you just answer the question, basically, right? You see here, brother, just answer the question and make your stance clear. Why is this so difficult to do? Great question, right? He says, LOL, I have already made clear my stance on all the questions he has asked. No, you haven't. But he still asks further questions because he is stalling and ducking the debate. And I said it very clearly. No, you haven't, you lying shaitan. You can simply say that Khomeini was a kafir and state your aqidah clearly. But you won't, it was a typo here, you won't because you're a snake. And that's the honest reality, Dan. You won't, and you say that you have, but the exact question was brought up to you in your live stream about whether or not you state that Khomeini was a Muslim or a kafir, and you said, basically, Allahu Alam. You didn't give an answer. You didn't say one way or another. When I've presented you the evidence now very clearly of his position on the imams controlling the atoms in the universe. So everybody, please stop telling me that Daniel's already answered the question and actually get him to answer the question because he hasn't answered so far. Now let's go back to Daniel speaking on this issue again, and we'll see that he either doesn't know what Sunnism is or he's just being dishonest again.
Or his allegation that I do not hold that a person who believes that a created being controls the universe is major kufr, and such a person without legitimate excuse is deemed a kafir. Obviously, I do hold that, as I've clarified several times now. So in a previous stream, I said that there are some who have gone to such extremes in their love for example, the imams or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they'll make extreme statements like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or their imams literally control the universe and can do anything that they want in the universe. And so when I'm describing this, I'm saying that there's a double standard. There's a double standard. Why? If you do takfir of the Shia, all Shia, because there are some who have this view, you should be consistent and also takfir Sunnis, because there are some Sunnis, and in fact many, I said the word many or a lot, who also have this view. Who also has, does many mean majority of Sunnis? Does that many mean 90%, 80%? No, I didn't say the majority of Sunnis. I didn't say like 90% or most. I said many. Many can mean 100. Many can mean 1,000. Many can mean 1,000,000. If you look at the subcontinent, for example, or you look at some of these Sufi groups, extreme Sufi groups, their numbers are in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, who have beliefs like this, and they're considered Sunni. They're considered Sunni. That's a fact. That's a fact. So I was pointing to the lack of consistency. But is that belief kufr? Yes, that's a kufr. And whoever believes that a created being can control the creation independently of Allah.
Hear that? Whoever believes that a creation can control the universe independently of Allah. He adds that in, which is a staple thing that we know all of these deviants and extreme Sufi groups do all the time. So Daniel's fitting right into that trap. I don't know if he believes in it or what, Allahu Alam, but it's very clear what he's doing.
Complete kufr. And that makes you a kafir. A created being controlling the universe. That makes you a kafir. Part of Shia belief about Iman.
But notice he claims that, oh, there are so many Sunnis that have this position. No, there are no Sunnis that have this position, because anyone who believes in this is a kafir. They can't be a Sunni aslan. So how could you make the claim that these people are actually Sunnis? They're not Sunnis, Dan. And yes, we are consistent because we make takfir of them and the Shia or anyone who holds this belief. But let's see if you're going to be able to do it. You're saying, and you were arguing, which just proves my point, that, oh, because we don't make takfir on these so-called Sunnis, therefore we shouldn't make takfir on the Shia that believe in it. No, it's the opposite. We do make takfir on the so-called Sunnis who aren't even Sunnis aslan. We make takfir of them, and we also takfir the Shia that believe in this. So you're the one that's not consistent. Or actually, maybe you are. You don't make takfir of either one of them, which just shows that you have a batil aqidah. You're upon falsehood, very clearly. Now, we spoke a lot about Khomeini, but let's get to the current supreme leader, Ayatollah of Iran. Let's get to Khamenei. Let's see what his position is on the imams. Let's take a look.
یکی از مراتب مهم شؤون انبیاء الهی است، یعنی پیغمبران هر کدامشون یک امامند دارای مقام امامتند. مقام امامت برای پیغمبران از مقام رسالت بالاتر است.
You see that? What does he say? The station or rank of imama is higher than prophets. Well, Dan, isn't it a staple belief of Sunnis? And this is why we takfir the Qadianis, that you cannot believe in any prophets after the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Now the Shia will say, no, the Imams are not prophets, but really they struggle to say and demonstrate what the difference between the Imams and the prophets actually are. The difference really, and some of them even say this, is only in name, is only in title. They believe that they're continuing along in the lineage of the prophets, continuing their role. And in fact, the rank of Imam is a higher status than prophethood, which he explicitly said. So if we can't believe in prophets after the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, how can we believe in human beings of a greater status and greater rank as imams, holding imama after the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? So if we can't believe in prophets after the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, by greater reason we can't believe in imams who are supposedly of a higher status than the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And just to show that this isn't Khamenei's position and that this isn't mainstream, let me show you guys on alislam.org, which Daniel also cited, which is the most visited Shi'i website on the net. What does it say about this issue? This is on the article which is called Imamat versus Prophethood, Part 1. The Shia further believe that the 12 Imams of the house of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam have the rank higher than that of all of the messengers, be Imam or not, except the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So this is a very mainstream view. I would say it's probably the majority view amongst the scholars and even the lay people who are all in those audiences where Khamenei and these other Imams or these Ayatollahs are speaking. And when they say these things, there are like thousands of them. This is what they're doing. They love it. They're eating it up. So this belief of the Shia is what? That the Imams who come after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, are greater in rank and status than all of the other prophets and messengers besides Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That's their belief. So what do you think of this, Dan? That Khomeini and Khamenei and the majority of Shia today believe in this. This is very clear that the majority of Shia ulama, which this is on what? Shia Encyclopedia, Ahlul Bayt Digital Islamic Library Project. This is alislam.org. This is not some fringe website or group. They're not demonstrating it as such. So very clearly, Dan, even further evidence of the fact of the kufri beliefs of the Shia that they hold about the Imams. They basically believe in prophets after the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So Daniel, that about sums it up. I mean, we can go into more detail about your issues related to Aqidah, but we want to know a few things. Do you make takfir of Khomeini and Khamenei for believing in Imams that are basically prophets after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and that they believe that Khomeini explicitly said that they control the atoms in the universe and all of these kind of things? Do you make takfir of them, of the supreme leaders of Iran? We're waiting for you. You won't actually answer. You claim that you've answered, but you haven't. And the more and more times I put it forward and you dodge this simple question, it makes you look like a dishonest Dan. That's how it makes you look. We have to be upfront about it. That's exactly how it makes you look. So I'm not going to be having debates with you about when we're able to ally with the Shia, and if so, which groups of Shia, and so on and so forth. Those are legitimate discussions. But I'm not going to have a debate about that when you don't even know if you make takfir over someone believing that a created being is controlling the universe. We need to then have an Aqidah debate. And what is your Aqidah, Dan? So this is the second question. What is your Aqidah? You made the claim that Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and Imam Ahmed have substantial differences, major differences in Aqidah. What are they? And does that mean that you're taking the position of the Neo-Hanabila, these fake Hanbalis, who are claiming that, oh, they have the position of Imam Ahmed and Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah is a deviant who deviated away from his positions on Aqidah? What is your Aqidah? Because you couldn't defend it in a debate with the Christians and you refused to do so, and that's why I refused to be your partner in that debate and would never debate with you in the future until you make your Aqidah clear. Are you an Athari, Salafi, on the Aqidah of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and those before him like Imam Ahmed and those from the Salaf as-Salih? Are you on that Aqidah? Aqidah? Or are you on some Neo-Hanbali Aqidah? Or are you on a Ash'ari Aqidah, and that's why you're sharing this Ash'ari Aqidah courses and basically promoting it to tell your followers to go and sign up to it? Do you believe that you're an Athari, but in actual fact, you don't think that these are important differences and they're merely ikhtilafi matters, and you consider the Ash'aris and Maturidis to be part of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah? What is your position? We don't know any of that at this point, Dan. So make it clear. If you can't answer these questions clearly, and you can't make clear takfir of the kuffar that are actually holding to the beliefs that a created being is controlling the universe, and then you try to give them the out by saying, oh, if they don't say independently, like, you're trying to throw that in there. We know this trick. We know this trick for a long time. So make your positions on Aqidah clearly. And when it comes to the geopolitical matters, Brother Sharif and this other guy, Zumas, have already challenged you and accepted your debate. But you won't debate. You make more and more excuses. You want them to debate other topics. You want them to debate Aqidah issues when you don't even have an Aqidah. You're not even stating it clearly. And I don't want to hear people crying about Jake, oh, it's all about this unity nonsense. I don't actually unite with people who are on this position where they're not even making their Aqidah clear. Yeah, we can agree that the Zionists are scumbag losers, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deal with them and destroy them, and may He elevate the ranks of the Palestinians. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. We can agree on that. But when you're trying to talk about Shia Sunni unity, and you don't even know what your Aqidah is and can't state it clearly, then don't waste my time with debate offers, Dan. So I hope my position is clear. Everybody knows what my Aqidah is. I'm clear and open and honest about it. If Dan disagrees with my Aqidah, he can tell me he thinks I'm wrong. Fine. And then let's have a debate on that. But I'm not going to be debating this other stuff until you can clear up these major Aqidah issues that you have. With that being said, guys, I hope that you found this video educational, at least while I'm correcting Daniel. Hopefully that you're learning something about the beliefs of the Shia and what the correct beliefs of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah actually are. But if you enjoyed this and you'd like to see more videos like it, then please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell so you get notified of future videos. Comment on it. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree that Daniel simply is backing away and doesn't want to openly admit his Aqidah. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and share it on your social media platforms, no matter how big or how small your reach is. It really does help with the algorithm, guys. And if you want to go above and beyond and support my work on this channel, then the best way to do so are the two links that are pinned at the top of the description of this video, as well as in the comment section of this video. With that being said, guys, until next time, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.